Welcome to the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright, an exciting thrill ride through the wonderful world of HBCU athletics. Before our trip begins, let's set a few ground rules. First, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Second, hit the like button. Third, please be sure to tell someone else about this show. Now that we've got these things out of the way, it's time for our journey to begin. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your ride.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another great show of The Ride with your man, Wild Wayne Cartwright, here on another Sunday night. And ladies and gentlemen, do I have a very power-packed show for you tonight. We got a whole lot to cover. We got the full Exhaustive SWAC Championship preview coming. You definitely don't want to miss that. I'm also going to be joined by my special guest, my friend Mo Carter, who's going to come up here in a few minutes. You know what you got to do. You got to make sure you hit the like button. If you're watching me for the very first time, make sure you subscribe, okay? So for the very last time in 2025 of this season, you know what time it is. It is time to fire it up with the montage. One more time. Here we go. In the D2 playoffs, Albany State and Benedict matched up for the third time this year. And for the third time, the Albany State Golden Rams get the victory. This one was the closest one yet, 14-12. Isaiah Knowles, 19 out of 29, 244 yards passing, with a passing touchdown to Jamil Williams, and he also had a rushing touchdown himself. They held Benedict to just 186 yards on the day. David Smith had a touchdown run as part of his 74 yards rushing, and Zane Spires, he kicked 2 field goals. In the end, Quinn Gray and the Albany State Golden Rams, they march forward into the quarterfinals, and they get to stay at home. Next week, they host Newberry. The Turkey Day Classic went down on Thanksgiving Day there in Montgomery. This one started off kind of crazy, y'all. It was 21-14 after the first quarter. And then Alabama State said, oh, let's play some football now. They held them scoreless the rest of the way, en route to a 58-21 beating. To Sean Smoot, 20 out of 24, 422 yards passing, 4 touchdowns on the day. Jalen Jones had 6 catches, 489 yards. They blew this thing open in the second quarter with 24 second quarter points. Alabama State, they end the season with a very good 10-2 record, but they'll still be thinking about what could have been on October the 11th there in Jackson. Tuskegee, they finished at 4-7. Shout out to Valley! Shout out to Valley. The Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils, they pull a stunner over the Florida A&M Rattlers for the second consecutive year. 35-31. Brandon Nunez, 28 out of 47, 331 yards, 3 touchdowns, and also a rush TD. McCray Norris, where'd he come from? 8 catches, 140, a touchdown, and he threw a touchdown. The second straight win over the Rattlers, as Valley, they finished their season by getting on the board in SWAC play. And oh man, Cozy, the first losing season since 2016. Shout out to Valley. We'll talk about it here in a few. And in another stunner, there in New Orleans, the Southern Jaguars rally from a 10-point four-quarter deficit. to stun their rival Grambling for the fourth straight year in the Bayou Classic, 28-27. Cam McCoy, 148 in the air. Holly, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Remo, a touchdown on the ground. The defense got loose, 4 sacks, forced two turnovers. Oh, Grambling gonna be kicking themselves all off season because this is one that they had in hand. But shout out to Fred McNair and those Southern Jaguars for fighting all the way down to the end, coming out 28-27. And you know what it is. That is the montage for the last time in the 2025 season. And, I want everybody, make sure you hit the like button, like the stream. And I'm going to call my boy up here, Mr. Mo Carter. Mo Carter, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Hey, Wayne, I'm great, man. Happy holidays to you, my friend.
Same to you, man. Same to you. And I'm going to get right to it because, I want you to talk about a couple of these games. You called the 2 games that I'm going to talk about here real quick here with you. All right. So first we got the Turkey Day Classic. Talk about it.
So, with the Turkey Day Classic, I'll say this, man. Tuskegee came out on fire, and I think a big thing because of that was because when we talked to Coach Eddie Robinson Jr., he talked about 2 quarterbacks. He never mentioned anything about defending Franklin, the quarterback that ended up starting and playing majority of the game. So I think when it comes to the X's and O's and them preparing, they just were not prepared for it. And all of a sudden, this guy comes out, starts slinging it, and then having big completions that turn into major points for them. And all of a sudden, you're like, oh, man, this is about to be a huge battle. But then all of a sudden, you get into the second quarter, and Alabama State starts picking up some steam. And I think the biggest play of the game was the pick 6 that went the other way for Alabama State, followed by on the next possession when Tuskegee gets into Alabama State territory, and then an interception occurs, and then they get points off of that. So huge momentum swing for Eddie Robinson Jr.'s team. And then after that, man, they just really started pouring it on in the second half and, score. I think it was the third most points ever in a Turkey Day Classic between Alabama State and Tuskegee. So, yeah, they definitely wanted to finish the season on a high note with a high score.
Yeah, but, as I said during the montage, Alabama State, they're going to be thinking about what could have been back there on October 11th, going 10-2. Yeah, but how was the atmosphere down there for this one?
The atmosphere was fine. I've been to a number of Turkey Day Classics. Surprisingly, though, this is the first time I've actually done a Turkey Day Classic that featured Tuskegee and Alabama State. When I worked in Montgomery, it was right after Tuskegee had pulled out of doing the Thanksgiving game so they could play in the Division II playoffs if they had good records. So, I had seen Miles, I had seen Stillman against Alabama State, but this was the first time I actually seen like Tuskegee against ASU. And I mean, for the most part, pretty decent crowd. And then on top of that, you still had a decent atmosphere, people out there barbecuing and whatnot. But then at a certain point in time, you realize, like, all right, time to go ahead and pack it up and take it home because Alabama State was way out in front for that one.
Yeah, well, shout out to that. And now we'll proceed here to the Bayou Classic. Now, you had a radio call for Sirius on this one, man. Talk about this game, man. This was crazy.
Look, I'll say this. Myself, along with many other people in the Jaguar Nation, didn't think the chances of getting the W on yesterday were that high. Let's just be for real. And the way we've seen this Jaguar team play through the year, like a lot of us figured, okay, they'll be in it and then a mistake will happen and then the game will basically be given away. All of a sudden, it's like, all right, you get to that late third quarter and you're like, oh, here we go or whatever. But then all of a sudden, the attack for Southern finally started going well, in which they were able to run the ball efficiently. And then, Cam McCoy actually started, firing down the field and completing some solid passes that made Grambling say, okay, we have to kind of, defend the balanced attack right now. And all of a sudden, Southern's in the mix. But then you get to a point where it's like, okay, Grambling State misses the field goal, but it roughed the kick, run into the kicker. First down. I'm sitting here like, oh man, this guy has hit a 52-yard field goal. All of a sudden, he misses the field goal. But then Southern got a little pretty with their last possession offensively and gave Grambling another chance. And the craziest thing was, okay, 4th and 20. I'm like, you just got to make a stop. And the fact that they were able to complete a 4th and 20 pass and get
Mm-hmm.
a first down. My wife was so fed up, she walked out the booth, bro. She was like, I know exactly what we're to see on this one. And then all of a sudden, the next play, the defense comes up with a huge turnover to put the game on ice. She walks back in like, what the heck happened? I just pointed. I'm like, look at the replay. And sure enough, they pull off a huge upset and basically avoid having the worst record in Southern University football history since 1930.
Wow, man. Well, for everything that this season was not, uh, I know this has got to be very gratifying as a Southern Jag grad to at least finish this up with a win over your rival. So, which leads me to my next point with you is, you guys are you guys are introducing a new guy tomorrow. So, give me your thoughts on the new head man in charge, Marshall Faulk.
Well, Southern has had a Pro Football Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it. From all standpoints or whatever, from not just on the field, but also from a mentality standpoint. Peyton Manning and Kurt Warner have both said that Marshall Faulk may be just one of the most talented players they've ever played with, but also one of the most smartest players they've ever played with. So that's definitely saying something from those two Hall of Famers in that facet. With the hire, I've been telling everyone all weekend, I want to see what's going to happen with the assistant coaches. Because, of course, yes, Marshall knows football. He's been an assistant coach under Coach Deion Sanders over at Colorado or whatever, but now he gets a chance to lead a program. And when you lead a program, you know the deal, man. You're only as good as what your staff looks like. And the staff will be the one, I feel, that carries that team and really, really puts the X's and the O's together and does the dirty work or whatever for, the Jaguars. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen when he starts to fill out that staff. Once I see that staff, then I'm going to really, really be able to give a lot of commentary about how I feel things are going to go. On top of that, Wayne, the other thing too is the 2026 season, Jaguar Nation, let me just say this. We're going to have to be very patient because you're going to have away games in conference play against Jackson State, Florida A&M, Texas Southern, and Prairie View. Plus, you're going to have a money game at the University of Houston in the first couple of weeks. So that is not going to be an easy schedule at all. So definitely patience is going to be needed for year one. But, if Coach Faulk comes in and holds off a whole bunch of victories and gets them in the running, then it's going to be feeling good. If not, I just feel that patience definitely will be needed because of the way that slate is set up.
Well, man, they're going to introduce him tomorrow. You said it's at 12 noon local time there, right? Tomorrow?
I think so. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you. The only reason why I'm saying that is because I know that they have that press conference that I'll be paying attention to. Auburn is introducing their new head football coach in the early afternoon as well. So, my regular 9 to 5,
Right.
Gotta, be paying attention to that. They picked up the guy who had been at South Florida,
Right.
the last couple of years. So yeah, man, I'll be trying to pay attention to a bunch of things and then get everything all squared away for Fox 54 on Monday evening. But definitely I'll be tuned in here, there, and everywhere. And then, of course, I got to also tune into Kalen DeBoer and see in the Alabama Crimson Tide. They get ready for the SEC championship. But hey, we're not talking about the SEC overall here. We're talking about HBCUs. So clearly, I know what's going on with Marshall Faulk and company via somebody's live stream tomorrow.
Well, Mo, as always, man, I appreciate you for taking the time and continue to do your great work, and we'll be talking.
Sounds good, Wayne. I always appreciate you, my buddy. Keep up the good work as well. And, I'll give those, let's see, I'm trying to think. I got a A&M men's basketball game Wednesday. So I know for sure I'll be giving a big shout out to having the folks look at From the Hill podcast coming up soon.
All right, man. Appreciate you, Mo.
No problem, man.
Right.
Take it easy, Wayne.
You too, man. All right, that's Mo Carter, everybody. And, everybody, make sure you like the stream tonight. Like the stream, everybody. And he dropped a few nuggets, and I'll talk a little bit more here about we'll talk a little bit more here about Marshall Faulk. So those that don't know about Marshall Faulk, he's from New Orleans, 52 years old. He was the number 2 pick of the NFL draft from the Colts. You see, he's got this long list of accolades that he had when he played in the NFL. This guy was really, really awesome. NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, won an MVP, All Pro. He's a Hall of Famer, won a Super Bowl, all those different things. So he's taken over the reins there at Southern. There's been a lot of things that have been said about this, good, bad, indifferent. We'll see what it takes. What he's been doing here currently, he's been the running backs coach there for Coach Prime out there in Colorado. So, we'll see what happens. But yes, he will be introduced tomorrow. So just wanted to close the chapter on Marshall Faulk. And then also now we'll get back into a little bit more just of the games from yesterday. I'll talk about these a little bit, and then we'll get into the SWAC preview, okay, the championship preview. So just real quickly, Albany State yesterday, they defeated Benedict for the 3rd time this year, right? That's really, really difficult to beat them twice, and it's really even more difficult to do it 3 times. This game didn't have a whole lot of offense, but in the end, Albany State, they found a way to get it done, and they get to go on, and next week they'll play Newberry in the quarterfinals. They get to stay at home, right? So Albany State, if they can get this victory next week, they'll end up getting into the semifinals. So, just keep the run going, Quinn Gray. Keep it rolling. All right. And then Mo talked to you about Alabama State. Just shout out to Alabama State again. Like I said last week, having a great year. Unfortunately, they came up short. Now let's talk about this game. Shout out to Valley once again, man. All right. So, all year, what the struggles had been for Valley all year. They would play really, really hard for a half, and then somehow, the whole, the other team with their, a lot more conditioning, a lot more numbers and depth would wear them down, or sometimes they get close and they shoot themselves in the foot. But yesterday was not that. It was not that. Now, FAMU, I thought for sure when they were up 24-14 in the 3rd quarter, late in the 3rd quarter, I said, I think FAMU's going to go ahead on and wear these boys down. But then RJ Johnson kind of went back to being what RJ Johnson was for a good chunk of the year. Indecisive. He threw 3 interceptions, and he also was sacked 3 times. 2 of those sacks, he held the ball way too long. Shout out to Brandon Nunez, man. This guy, he's a senior. He came from New Mexico. He was the starter the last couple of games because their main starter, Josh Brown, he was out and done for the year with a finger injury. Brandon Nunez, his first couple starts didn't go well at all. Yesterday, this dude, man, you look at the numbers, man, 331 yards, 3 touchdowns, and even rushed for a TD. They completely emptied the clip yesterday. And they played like you should when you're in a position like this. They played with nothing to lose. They let it all hang out, right? For FAMU, this is your first losing season since 2016. Now, I know they've had a couple of seasons where they had some vacated records and things like that, but first losing season since 2016, man. And you lose for the 2nd consecutive year to Valley. Last year, Valley had no wins. This year, Valley had 1 win headed into the matchup. And you lose to this team again. And I already saw all the comments as well as everybody else has. Now, listen, I've always been a James Colsey fan, but man, after this James Colsey, man, if they get rid of you, listen. I don't know what's gonna happen. There's stuff that's out there that's saying he won't be back and all these different things, but I tell you what, man, this is demoralizing for that staff. This is demoralizing for those players. This is demoralizing for that fan base. It's one thing. It's one thing to have lost, the Florida Classic like you did last week, right? In a game that you had a defensive lapse on fourth and 9, right? So it's funny what you said, Whitley. He said he already told you he's not going anywhere. But it's one thing to lose the Florida Classic last week like they did. But then this was a game that they had in control. And defensively, they just did not show up. Defensively, they let Mississippi Valley State do whatever they wanted to do. And shout out to Coach Buckley, man, for keeping these guys engaged and fighting hard down the stretch. And they got it done. So shout out. But we'll see what happens. A lot to happen, a lot to go, man. But Buckley, they go running into the offseason great, feeling really, really good about themselves. Y'all a mess, man. He said, I heard Cozy will be extended to 2030. He say, the devil wasn't a lie yesterday. Sure wasn't. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Now I'll switch over here and I'll give my last comments about this game here. This game right here, Grambling, man. This was one that they're going to be really, really kicking themselves to all off season. This thing was 14-0 and 24-14. You had a 24-14 lead, fourth quarter. You had this game within your control. But shout out to Coach Fred McNair, man, for keeping these boys engaged and keeping them rolling, right? So here's the question. Is Mickey gone? Well, that's a real good question. I have no idea, man. I thought Mickey really did a good job this year because of the fact that, Hayden Benoit is their fourth guy at quarterback. Okay. They had some injuries, man, and he was able to manage this thing with his staff, and they got these guys. Hayden Benoit got them playing. Benoit's a talent, man. He's a talent. Yesterday, he threw an interception, and he kind of got rattled there in the second half. But this really was about what Southern was able to do on the ground. Trey Holly had 2 on the ground. Barry Remo got loose. Those guys got loose in that second half on the ground. And McCormick, the kicker. I want to just send my love to McCormick, the kicker. I know a lot of people got on him about missing that 43-yarder there with 2 minutes to go. But I tell you, man, McCormick, he did some really, really good things for those guys this year. He won the game against Jackson State with the game winner, the 44-yarder out there in Vegas. He made a 52-yarder in this game. His 2 misses, they were both from distance. But Grambling, the thing that Grambling just needed to do, they just needed to take care of the ball, man, and they didn't. They turned the ball over twice, and then also shout out to Kelby Givens in that pass rush, man. They got after Benoit. They sacked him 4 times. And so at the end of the day, man, hey, Southern ends the year just like what Valley does. Bad season, but you end the year with a win over a rival. Well, Valley didn't win over a rival, but Southern won over its bitter rival. And this is something that, for all the misery that they had all year, this is something that you can hang your hat on at the end of the day. Flat out. He says, that game came down to the last. Yeah, they had too many chances to seal it. Yep, did it to themselves. It's just really what it is, man. It is. It's really what it is. They had way too many chances. All right. But that's how it goes. All right. So my picks this week, unfortunately, I went 1-2. But hey, my overall record is still way above 500. So that's how it rolls here in week 14 for your man Wild Wayne. Now, lastly, before I get into the preview of the SWAC championship, these are the final standings in the SWAC now that we have finished the entire regular season schedule. So you see Jackson State with the gold star, and you see Valley down there at the bottom, man, gets on the board. They finished 1-7 in league play, 2-10 overall. And you look at FAMU, man, 5-7. And then we switch over here to the West. This is what the West final looks like now after Grambling and Southern. You see Southern gets that win, 1-7 and 2-10 overall. And you see Grambling, they had a chance to go 8-4. They end up finishing 7-5. All right. And then, the MEAC was what the MEAC was last week. That's done. So, South Carolina State's waiting on their opponent in the Celebration Bowl for what I'm getting ready to talk about right now, ladies and gentlemen. So before I get into this, I want to make sure everybody hits the like button, share the stream, share it all, man, and tell everybody, hey, Wild Wayne is talking about SWAC championship right now. And I'm going to tell you all right now, this is probably the most exhaustive most exhaustive time that I've spent doing these so far. So we got it all for you tonight. So just prepare to be entertained. All right. So here we go. You got the Prairie View Panthers heading to Jackson, Mississippi in the vet to take on the Jackson State Tigers. This is the fourth SWAC championship game appearance in the last 5 seasons for the Jackson State Tigers. This game is at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. This will be on ESPN2. The last time they played was the SWAC championship game from 4 years ago, and Jackson State won that one 27-10. All right. Now, here's some nuggets about this game. All right. This is the 27th edition. This thing started back in 1999. It was during the fall of my senior year of college there when I was at Alabama A&M. The very first championship was Jackson State against Southern there in Birmingham, Alabama, Legion Field. That was where it was from 99 until 2012. And then it was at NRG Stadium there in Houston from 2013 to 2017. Now, a lot of people have asked why this game is on campus like it has been since 2018, which is the host of the team that has the better record, right? Or better record through tiebreakers. However, whichever occurs, it's on campuses. Now, people had said, well, why isn't it being played at neutral site anymore? Well, Commissioner Charles McClellan, he said that when the game was being played there in Houston, it nearly bankrupted the league. So they just made the decision, and it was a very good decision to move it to campuses. And, there's several championships, even in the group of 5 where they're playing, on campus. So there it is. All right. Now, here are the title game winners of all time. And you can look through this thing and you can see through the whole history, man. You saw, like I said before, Southern defeated Jackson State in that very first one, 31-30. That was a classic. I remember it was on BET. BET, they showed the first few of these, man, and it was really, really good. Okay. You can see Grambling, they, won 3 in a row there in the 2000s. You saw my school, A&M. We got there a lot of times. A&M got there a lot of times, man, but was only able to get one in a full season, which was in 2006 over UAPB. And then, we got another one there the spring of 2021. You see Prairie View 2009. There's their only championship. They defeated Alabama A&M in 2009. That's Prairie View's only championship. You can see Prairie View has been there, since 2021. This is their 3rd trip to the SWAC title game. Now, you see Grambling won this thing a lot. You see Jackson State's name appears up there a lot. FAMU got one. Alcorn State, they had their run for a while where they won 4 out of 6 years. You see how it rolled. This whole thing, man, was pretty dope, man. Thing was pretty dope. Pretty dope. You knew once that first Saturday of December rolls around, everybody was tuned in, getting ready to watch somebody win a SWAC title. All right. So that's the history of the all-time winners. All right. And then you got here most title game appearances. Grambling's been there 10 times. They've won 8. Okay. Not to pick on Southern, but I had to put in the most title game losses. Southern's lost this thing 6 times. Now, teams that have won this thing back to back, there's 3 of them that have done it. Okay. Grambling, they won it in 01 and 2001, Alcorn, and then Jackson State did it. Jackson State is attempting to go back to back again. All right. So if Jackson State wins this game, they'll be the first team to go back to back twice. All right. So that's a little bit of the superlatives. And then last championship for each team. You can see it right here. Alabama A&M last on-field title was 06. Full season title was 06. They had the spring one. Alabama State, they received the 2010 one by default because Texas Southern, they had to vacate it due to playing some ineligible players. The last time they actually won it on the field was 2004. Alcorn 2019, Pine Bluff 2012, Bethune-Cookman, it's still new for them. FAMU 2 years ago. Grambling, wow, 2017, man. Jackson State was last year. Shout out to Valley. They've never done it. Prairie View 2009, Southern 2013. And then, like I said about Texas Southern, their one win in 2010, that 11-6 win over Alabama State was vacated. Now let's get into the teams, all right? So this is the coaching staff, Prairie View, all right? They come in with a 9-3 record, 7-1 in SWAC play. Tremaine Jackson, first season, offensive coordinator is Chris Buckner, all right? Chris Buckner's been with Coach Jackson for a while. A lot of these guys here you see on the screen, these guys have all been together for quite a while, even back to the Valdosta, even some of the Colorado Mesa days, all right? Co-defensive coordinators, Trent Early and Brandon Anderson. And then you got your special teams coordinator in Jackson Hadley. Now, this is Prairie View's schedule. Of course, I'll get into this a little bit later on in the program here because I've got a little bit more where, you know, people like to say that they didn't play anybody, okay? So you just bear with me as we go through the presentation because I'll come back to this schedule. But just for, you know, kicks and giggles right now, this is their schedule, and this is how they arrived here, okay? So they were 7-1 in SWAC play, all right? Now, let's move forward. Here are the top players that Prairie View has on offense. Now, one thing I want to say as I get into this here, y'all, I'm talking about as many players as I can, okay? I'm just talking about some of the best players that they have here, all right? All right, so, you know, don't come at Wild Wayne when he said, well, you didn't talk about X, Y, and Z. Listen, I'm going to talk about as many guys as I have, all right? But these are some of the top players that they have on offense, all right? And also, I'm just, you know, teaser ahead. I've got even more stuff about more of your players, so just stick with me. All right, so top players on offense. Cam Peters, quarterback. 63% of his passes completed. He's thrown for just over 2,000 yards, 18 TDs to 6 interceptions. Not bad. Also can run a little bit, 390 yards rushing, 3 TDs. Now you got the twin tandem there at running back. Chase Bingman, freshman. All right. 857 yards, pretty good average there. 8 TDs. Lamaje McDowell, he's the veteran. He's the senior. He's been, you know, he hasn't been with Prairie View the entire part of his career. He's a transfer, but this is his second year with the program. 477, 8 TDs. Bingman is more of, you know, your scat back, and McDowell is more of your power back. All right. Rockwell, the receiver, dude's pretty awesome. He's got size. He's got some speed. He's more of a possession guy. He also can take you deep a little bit. 64 receptions, 988, 7 touchdowns, okay? He should be able to eclipse 1,000 yards on the season, all right? Guy's pretty good, man. All right, just pretty good. Rodney Ojo, you might remember this guy. He was the hero in the opening game of the season against Texas Southern, catching that touchdown with time expiring. 25 receptions, 353 TDs. And then you got the tight end, Trayvon Jones. He's not just a blocker. He will slip out in the coverage, and he'll catch some passes here. 23 catches, 213, 3 TDs, all right? These are some of the top players they have on their offense, all right? These are the names that you hear called all the time when you watch a Prairie View game. And then you switch over here to the defense. All right. Now, I'm just gonna say that people been kind of sleeping on these dudes over here on defense. Prairie View, they got a really, really good defensive team, man. Kennedy Parker, he's probably, to me, I think he's their best defender. 65 tackles, 13 and a half TFLs, man, tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. Know where number 7 is if you're Jackson State. Trevor Randall, safety. This dude, he's versatile. He doesn't just cover guys. He's got 3 interceptions. He'll also get down. He's got a sack, 4 tackles for loss. He can get going, right? Daryl Starling Jr., another linebacker. 4.5 tackles for loss, a sack. Sterling Roberts, another good linebacker. All right. And then you look at their 2 corners. These are two pretty solid corners, man. Cameron Amayal, he's got 3 interceptions, and Eric Zachary, 11 pass breakups and 2 interceptions. Okay. This is pretty good. These are 6 pretty good defensive players, man. Pretty good defensive players, these guys. All right. So they cover the pass very well. They tackle well, right? They're well coached on the defensive side of the ball in terms of tackling and forcing some turnovers and also breaking up passes. All right. Now, let me find it. Yeah, right here. He said, their defense is good, but they struggle rushing the passer. You are correct, and I will definitely get to that here as we go ahead. All right. So this is what Prairie View has. Just a little bit. Now I'll switch over to the other side. Okay. Now we go to Jackson State. Jackson State fans, you guys already know this, but hey, we're doing a full show here. TC Taylor, this is his 3rd season. Okay. Looking to go back to back there in the SWAC. Co-offensive coordinators, Rip Kirk on your left and Manny Ramirez on the right. Manny Ramirez is also the offensive line coach. He's the run game coordinator. Rip Kirk, he handles the passing game. Okay. Terenzo Quinn, he's been with TC for a while now. He's the defensive coordinator, championship experience all around. Javancy Jones, he's the special teams coordinator, okay? Championship experience all throughout these guys, man. And there's even more coaches that are not pictured that are on this staff that have great contributions as well, okay? Now we move forward. Here's the schedule that they played, right? Got 9-2. They're 7-1 in SWAC play. They had the 1 loss in SWAC play to Grambling. Ever since they lost that game to Grambling, it's been pretty much playoff mode from here on forward, right? Must wins 4 straight weeks. They endured that game down to the end last week against Alcorn State. Okay, so 9-2 on the season and 7-1 in SWAC play. And then here are some of their top players on offense. And really, these are the guys that you hear. Of course, there's a couple more receivers like Shamar Savage and, Mr. Gardner. They're not pictured, but they're definitely part of this picture as well. Jacobian Morgan, he's been injured, as you might have known. So these numbers are a little bit skewed a little bit. But when he's been in there, 61% completion percentage, 11 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. Takes care of the ball a lot better this year, right? 265 rush yards and 2 TDs running, okay? Playing in this game, I don't expect to see him run that much. I expect them to utilize these 3 really good running backs. Ahmad Miller, he has eclipsed 1,000 yards on the season, 10-16, 5 touchdowns. Mr. Davenport, another really good running back, 658, 7 TDs, and then not to be outdone, Travis Terrell, 574, 5 touchdowns. These dudes, you got thunder with Miller. You got a mixture of lightning and thunder in Davenport, and you got all lightning in Travis Terrell. So you got the 2 power backs and a speed back in Davenport, who's a combination of both. And then you got all speed with Terrell, who also will give you that business in the return game. And also you got to watch him coming out of that backfield as a receiver. Rembert, the transfer from Valley. This guy, shout out to him. He's had a tremendous season in his first season over there at Jackson State. A lot of pressure heaped on this young man. A lot of expectations heaped on this young man. This guy's delivered, especially down the stretch here, making the tough catches, making the big catches, and getting explosive plays. A very, very fine receiver, Nathan Rembert, coming out of that slot. Janalen Dupree, another guy who stepped his game up this year. 472 and 5 TDs. Again, making the big plays. All right. So these are the guys that you hear a lot on the offense. Defensively, the superlatives can just go for days with these guys. Quincy Ivory, this guy is just dynamic, man. It's hard to believe that this guy was once a quarterback at Valley. This dude, man, look at these numbers, man. 64 tackles, 13 and a half tackles for loss, 6 sacks. Coming off that edge, man, this dude, man, you need to account for this guy with extra personnel sometimes. But when you account for extra personnel, then you look at 8 there at the bottom right, Mr. John Brown coming off the other edge. Another guy who gets it done. 32 tackles, 4.5 TFLs, and 1.5 sacks. And then you got the veterans. Reed Pulliam, he's been in this system for a while. 9.5 TFLs, hard hitter at linebacker. Jeremiah Williams, he was the defensive MVP of the Celebration Bowl last year. Now, he's been a little bit banged up this year, but when he's been in there, still been good. Plugging the gaps there in the nose tackle position, and he gets to the quarterback a little bit. Ashton Taylor, he was a little bit hurt in the first half of the season. He's come on, man. Biggest play he made all year was that play he made on the very last play of the game against Alabama State, man. Making that stop. So 8.5 TFLs, 2 sacks. Cam Salas, hard hitting safety, man. Dude that'll get his nose dirty even in the run game, right? So these dudes here, boy, you better account for all of them. There ain't a single guy you can single out. There's other guys on here like Shamar Hawkins, Mr. Hargan, 32. You got a lot of guys, that we can talk about, top players on defense, right? But these are some of the household guys. Boy, 6, 7, and 8, and 3, 15, and 0. Boy, oh boy. And I see here, he said, Jay Brown is low-key underestimated. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. Hitting hard, bro. Hitting hard. All right. So let's see. We got a little bit of sticking on the comment. Let's get all right. Hold on. There we go. All right, got it down. All right. Let's go. Let's keep going. All right, now let's get into the individuals here now. All right, the individual matchups, all right? The receivers of Prairie View against Jackson State secondary. See, I told y'all I was going to have a lot of names up here, okay? So you got your safeties and you got your corners, all right? So let's talk about these safeties, all right? We talked about Cam Salas at first, okay? He's got 2 interceptions. BJ Washington, man, this guy came back from injury. This guy's been getting better and better every single week, okay? 6 pass breakups, right? Kamari Rogers, opportunistic, he's active. Another guy, pass breakups. KJ Chisholm, 17, another guy. Get down there tackling, right? This is a key thing to watch in this game, man, because Josiah Rockwell, as I said before, this guy's a handful. He's a big physical receiver, man. Possession, and he can go deep. So you definitely going to have a plan for 11 in white. Ojo, a speed guy. Dennis, another speed guy, right? So these receivers, they're underrated. And also the thing about these receivers too, Prairie View, they had their struggles in the first half of the season passing. Second half of the season, they've gotten much better in the pass game. So that puts a little bit more onus on this secondary for Jackson State to really be able to rise to the challenge and just be able to put some controls out there, okay? Now, according to what a lot of folks will say, they'll say that if there is a part of Jackson State's defense that you can possibly get them at, it is in the secondary position. So that's just something to watch. Okay, now we switch to the other side, okay? This matchup right here where you look at the receivers, I told you I'd get Jameel Gardner in there. And shout out to Shamar Savage because he'll also be active as well. They've got 4 good receivers. And also, you've got 4 good guys in the secondary for Prairie View. I talked about the first 3 also, before with Amayal and Zachary and Randall. but also Trinity Ward. He's another guy at safety who you got to keep your eye on, okay? These guys here, they don't just cover. These guys, they can hit as well. They'll get dirty in the run game as well. So, this is an underrated Prairie View secondary. Obviously, we know Jackson State. They got speed guys. They got possession guys. They got it all, right? So that's what the secondary against, the Prairie View secondary against Jackson State's receivers look like. Now we go over here to the individual matchups. So this right here, this is probably the biggest thing if Prairie View is going to have any kind of success overall on defense. Because right here, this is the weakest part of Prairie View's defense. So when I talked to you before about Jackson State's possible weakest part of their defense could be their secondary, you're looking at the weakest part of Prairie View's defense. It's that defensive line. Okay. Al Sparks is a big dude. Okay. But the rest of it though is they're not as athletic. They haven't really generated a whole lot of sacks, and they haven't really been able to cause a lot of havoc, right? And you look at this offensive line for Jackson State. Towns Blue's been there for a while. Quay Davis has been there for a while. And then you look at Barton, Williams, and the newcomer Smith, okay? These guys run block really, really well because leading FCS in rushing, you got to have a really good offensive line to do that. And these 5 for Jackson State are. And also in pass coverage, pass blocking, these guys have been able to generate time for their quarterbacks, okay? Quarterbacks, multiples. So any contributions you can get from Big Al Sparks and Jabarick Hopkins and Mr. Marshall and Malik Mason will be a bonus. Generate some TFLs, get some penetration, make it a little tough on these guys to allow the back end of your defense to do its job, right? So this is a key matchup right here. Now we flip it over to the other side. This is also vital for Prairie View because their offensive line has been pretty good. Calvin McMillan in the middle, 66. That's the leader of this group. He's the vet. He's been in the program a while, and he's their best offensive lineman, 6'5", 328. Caden Bowers, he can move some folks as well. But again, you look at these 4 dudes for Jackson State. We talked about Ivory, Williams, and Brown. I'll also add to the party Mr. Timon Wells, number 50. 6'1", 311. He's an emerging talent. Okay? These guys, they play well against the run. Talking about Jackson State's 4. They play well against the run. They also get quarterback pressures. They get hurries. They also know how to get their hands up in the passing lanes. So there's a lot of things that's going to put the onus on Mr. Williams, Pascal, McMillan, Bowers, and Raekwon Bell up front for Prairie View. Prairie View, when they've succeeded, they've been able to run the ball pretty well behind these 5 guys. And now that they've been able to throw the ball a little bit too, they're going to need to hold up in their coverage. All right. So everybody, make sure you like the stream. Now we get into the next parts of this, the tails of the tape. Y'all know in typical Wild Wayne fashion, we got to give the tails of the tape, right? So now we talked about all the personnel. Now let's just get into the numbers. All right. Rush offense, you know what it is for Jackson State. Leading FCS, 269 a game. They've had like 4 or 5 efforts this year where they've eclipsed 300 yards rushing. Okay. I can tell you right now, if this number is high for Jackson State, it ain't going to look too good for Prairie View. And that's why I said the aforementioned guys I've talked about, with Prairie View's defense, you better find a way to control that run game. Because if you're not controlling that run game, all right, so 269 for Jackson State, 208 is not too shabby for Prairie View. You look at the rush defense. Both teams play the run really, really well. So if anything you can say about Prairie View, they are capable of playing the run very well. 143 a game, man. You can win a lot of games if you hold people to 143 yards a game. But you look on the other side. I talked about how good Prairie View's rush offense has been. Man, Jackson State's rush defense is pretty solid, man. That leads the SWAC 110 yards allowed per game on the ground. That's some great numbers. Pass offense, you see where it is, 228 to 211, not bad. Pass defense, you can see that has been the weakest part of Jackson State's defense. They have been susceptible to the pass. Everybody knows it, right? Their portion is just control the pass game, don't allow explosives. That's really where it's at. Prairie View, that secondary has been pretty good, as I told you before. 126 yards allowed in the air on the year. Very solid. Look at the scoring offense. Pretty even. Scoring defense. Pretty even, man. When these two teams win games, man, it has not been relatively close, okay? They both have had their squeakers, which we'll get into, but these numbers are pretty good here when you look at the tail of the tape initially, okay? Now, let's see. He said, we have to be prepared for 8 in the box. We didn't get off in the running game like we should have in the second half last game. Correct. On offense, we can't kill ourselves with second and intermediates. See, I love this, man. I love this. And he say should be a great game. Special teams will be a key. We'll get to that in a second as well. All right. I'm loving this, man. Loving this that y'all are into this, man, because this is why I put all this together. And also, he said very close in most stats. Yeah, a lot closer than what people think, right? All right, now let's go. More tail of the tape. Here are the intangibles, okay? This is the stuff that you don't really get talked about too often, but these are big parts of the game, okay? Look at the takeaways. Both teams have excelled in taking away. Now, this part of the season, if you are a positive in the turnover differential, that is great, okay? All right, now you look at Prairie View is taking it away 18 times, only giving it away 12, okay? So they're a +6. You look at Jackson State, they're 15 takeaways, and they've given it away 13 times. They're a +2, all right? And you look at the differential between interceptions and forced fumbles, okay? So, and you look at that Jackson State, when they typically give it away, it's usually on a fumble. Now, they've thrown 5 interceptions throughout the year, okay? Now, you look at the penalty average, and this is an Achilles heel for both teams. It ain't just Prairie View. It's also more even, too, for Jackson State. Prairie View gets on average 7 penalties a game, okay? Really, you want to be closer to 5 penalties per game, okay? You look at Jackson State, and Jackson State fans, you already know this. This is something you all have said to me all year on this show, right? 9 penalties per game on average. And the thing that's really crazy about this, 9 penalties per game, and they only played 11 games, man. They led the SWAC in penalties and only played 11 games versus the Prairie View played 12, okay? Third down percentage. You look at what the opponent percentage is, okay? 42% now for Prairie View on their own third downs. You want that to be a lot higher. 50% is pretty good for Jackson State. Again, you probably want it to be a little bit higher, but 50%. Look at the opponents, though. Prairie View gets off the field on third down 29% of the time. Jackson State, 31%. So what that tells you is that both teams, if you can really convert some third downs and extend some of these drives, man, it's definitely going to be to your biggest benefit because both teams have excelled with getting off the field on third downs. Red zone offense. You see they both, when they get down there, Prairie View has been better in the red zone than Jackson State has, okay? You know, you want to score touchdowns. So 36 TDs out of 43 red zone trips for Prairie View. Pretty good. 30 TDs and 39 out of 50 for Jackson State. You know, you want to see what you want to be a little bit better than that. But you look on the other side, red zone defense. Okay. When you get down in that red area, you know, 14 TDs allowed and 21 red zone trips by Jackson State. They're a bend but don't break. Same thing with Prairie View. Only allowed 12 TDs out of their 21 red zone trip scores. All right. So that's a little bit of the intangibles. Now let's get into just a little bit more of the diagnostics. We're getting towards the end of this. All right. To me, I think that the quarterbacks are equalized. And the reason why I say they're equalized is because you got Jacoby and Morgan coming off an injury. All right. If he's playing, which, you know, all signs are that he's going to play. He hasn't been in there in quite a while. Cam Peters has been getting better. So I think it's equalized. I give the edge on offensive line to Jackson State. Why? Well, primarily because, man, you're rushing for so many yards per game, 269 yards rushing per game, man. Doing really, really good. Okay. Running backs, this was a close one, but, because Bingman and McDowell, pretty good running backs. But, it's hard to argue when you're leading FCS in rushing, man, like Jackson State is. So we give the running backs. Receivers, this one was a close one. I gave this one a little bit of an edge to Prairie View because this really has a lot more to do with the matchups. Okay, who can excel against who's secondary the best? That's why I gave the check mark to Prairie View. Okay, but that's not saying that Jackson State isn't fully capable, because you and I know and everybody knows they are. Okay, hey, be patient. Be patient. Defense. Defensive line goes the way, to me, of Jackson State. Secondary, Prairie View. Linebackers, even. Kick returns all day, Jackson State. Special teams, field goals, nobody. These guys been missing kicks all over the place, man. Nobody, no edge. Just whatever kicks you can make, hey, we'll love it. All right, key matchups here in coaching. All right. People forget Tremaine Jackson was in the Division II National Championship last year with Valdosta State. All right. So he's got big game experience. Went through the playoffs with that team. All right. So that's the experience. TC Taylor, we know, been there, done that. Okay. Offensive coordinator, I give the edge to Kirk and Ramirez. Not saying that Buckner ain't capable, but I'm just going with the championship experience there. Again, defensive coordinators, even. Because both have been very, very strong on defense. And also, you talking about Quinn and Early and Anderson, you got a lot of really, really good, really good experience there. Okay. Now, everybody said before that Prairie View ain't played nobody. Not everybody. A lot of folks said they hadn't played nobody. Okay. These are the common opponents. 6 common opponents that were played on both sides. Both played Alabama A&M. I hate to say that they whooped my boys. Both of them had a good day against us. They both played Valley. They both played Southern on the road, right? Played really good on the road. Now, Alcorn, both struggled against Alcorn. Okay. Then you look at one lost to Grambling, the other one lost to Alabama State. So there it is. Now, yes, I know that there was a difference of personnel. There was a difference of timing and things like that. But my whole point of putting this up here is just to say that when people say that they didn't play anybody, that's it. Just saying, didn't play anybody. You got 6 common opponents. That's all. You may still feel how you feel, but that's just Wild Wayne saying what he feels on that. All right. Key trends and info as we get towards the end here. All right. Prairie View is unbeaten when they throw for more than 200 yards. 6-0. Okay. They're 6-3 when they don't throw for more than 200 yards. Okay. That was pretty interesting when I was going through and looking at this. 6-0 when they throw for more than 200, and 6-3 when they didn't. You see the 3 losses: UT Rio Grande Valley, Alabama State, and Rice. Those are the 3 that they threw for 200, but lost. Okay. Only lost once when they rushed for more than 200 yards. They had 248 yards against Alabama State. They've had 5 games without committing a turnover. They turned that ball over 4 times against Alabama State, all 4 interceptions, right? They've had 4 penalties, and they had at least 4 penalties in all but 12 games. They had one that had more than 10. The opener, they had 15. They've allowed one 100-yard rusher the entire season. Jamari Holtzclaw of Alabama State had 127 yards. They allowed just one 100-yard receiver, Tony Diaz of UT Rio Grande Valley. They did not allow a 300-yard passer all season. Eddie Marburger of Rio Grande Valley had 263. And then just for kicks and giggles, field goal percentage, Webb was 7 out of 13. Okay, they were 53%. Now we switch over here to the other side. Don't lose sight of the fact that they've only allowed one 100-yard rusher and one 100-yard receiver. Now we go over here to Jackson State's trends. They're unbeaten when they rush for more than 200 yards, 8-0. They're 2-1 when they rush, 2-1 when they didn't rush for more than 200. They lost to Southern Miss, they lost to Grambling, and they beat Southern. They've had at least one turnover in every game except for the opener. Keep that in mind. All right. Also, they led the SWAC in penalties despite playing 11 games. They had 10 plus penalties in 7 of 11. And they won time of possession in every game except for against Hampton. Now, lastly, here are the superlatives for them. They allowed one 100-yard rusher, Trey Holly. They allowed one 100-yard receiver, Tyron Warren, last week. They allowed one 300-yard passer, Andrew Body. And their field goal percentage was also 63%. Beza 8 for 14 and Warren 4 out of 5. Okay. Now, game keys. For Prairie View, you need to hit your offensive marks, man. You got to try to get over 400 yards of offense, total offense, if you can. Got to try to get over 400 yards of offense. You definitely want to try to rush for over 200, and you definitely got to throw it for over 200. You need to get off to a good start and get the game into the fourth quarter. Just get it to the fourth quarter, man. Alcorn State tried it last week. They managed to get it to the fourth quarter. If you can get it to the fourth quarter against Jackson State, man, you give yourself a chance. Turnovers. Force some and don't make any. You need to get you some bonus possessions. Okay? Then you got control the JSU rushing attack. As I said before, when they rush for over 200 yards, they're unbeaten. You got to limit the explosives because Jackson State, they make a killing on you with those. Then you got test the receivers. Test them. Test the JSU secondary with your receivers. And then lastly, for your keys, embrace the underdog role. And also, hey, there's been a lot of disrespect that's been coming your way. You know, embrace all that. Take it and use it to your fuel, to your fire. And lastly, the game keys for Jackson State. Jacoby and Morgan. Just have some good passing accuracy, man. Right? Force Cam Peters to beat you with his arm and not with his rushing attack. Because if these guys are running the ball and he's able to throw, man, that's going to make this game get a lot closer. Okay? Penalties. The trend of being the most penalized team in the SWAC cannot continue in this game. Also, if PV sells out to stop the run, you got to punish him in the pass. Rushing attack. If it's working, keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate things. If it's running, you can go with that thing. And also, getting up by 2 scores on PV, it'll force him to throw more and not be able to lean on that rushing attack. So, after I've said all this stuff that I said now I finally get to the part where you've all been waiting for. So, listen, Prairie View can win this game, man. They're capable. They can win this game. I just showed you all that they have that's possible. Jackson State, they've got a whole lot of championship medal, championship coaching. They got guys that have been experienced. They've been playing in playoff mode for 5 weeks now. Prairie View, they're not going to come down. They're not going to come to town. They're not going to come to town intimidated. Tremaine Jackson, he ain't going to come to town intimidated. These guys ready to play, man. But in the end, 27-17 Jackson State in a 4-quarter football game, taking down the Prairie View Panthers. Hey, man, I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. That's Wild Wayne's pick, 27-17 Jackson State. But I say this again with all due respect to Prairie View. You guys are definitely a capable enough team. I just think at the end of the day, I think Prairie View, I think that you just got too many too many things that you got to try to stop here, but keep it and get it into the fourth quarter. You never know what happens. But I got 27-17, and I got Jackson State marching on, going to the Celebration Bowl. And I'll be looking forward to sitting down there in Atlanta with some folks. But hey, just looking forward to seeing a great game here. Okay. So that's my pick. All right. Lastly, tonight, I'll finish with two things. My ride tokens, my 4 ride tokens. So I've got Tashawn Smoot, Alabama State. He gets my first one, 20 out of 24, 422 yards, 4 touchdowns. Brandon Nunez, man, shout out to Valley once again, man. It gives me great pleasure to see Valley get on this list, man. 28 out of 47, 331 yards passing, 3 TDs, and a rush TD. Shout out to you, Brandon Nunez, and shout out to you, Coach Buckley. Then Isaiah Knowles gets on this list again from Albany State, allowing these guys to get down, get on down the road again to play in the quarterfinals. 19 out of 29, 244 in the air, TD, 60 rush yards and a TD. And then lastly, shout out to Kelby Givens and Southern, man. The Southern defense did their job in that fourth quarter. He led the charge. 6 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, half a sack, and he had that game-winning fumble recovery. Shout out to you, Kelby Givens. All right, so those are my ride tokens for week number 14. And then last but not least, here's their schedule for next week. You guys know it. We just went over it. Prairie View at Jackson State. ESPN2 is where you'll find that on Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. ESPN2 with Tiffany Green and Jay Walker. And then also, flip over to ESPN Plus before that game and check out Albany State. They're hosting Newberry in the quarterfinals of D2. All right. And then last but not least, Wild Wayne's final word on this evening. Okay. My final word this evening is what a great season it's been to this point. And I'm looking forward to seeing a really, really good game down there in Jackson on Saturday. Shout out to everybody that attended the game down there in New Orleans yesterday. I saw the crowd was mentioned at 63,000. That's great. Let's let that stuff continue. Let's see a big crowd down there in Jackson this weekend, man. Y'all pack that place out, man. Make it look great on national television. All right. Pack that place out. Make it look great, Jackson State fans. Prairie View people, make the trip, man. Go and get in there. Go and get in there. Go and get in there. So we're getting down the stretch of this season, y'all. So I said to you last Sunday night, I said, it's a beautiful game. A lot of times, we get down the stretch here, and we forget the fact that this stuff comes and goes so quickly. So let's enjoy this thing, man. We got 2 full weeks left. We got this week, and then we got Celebration Bowl. So everybody just enjoy the heck out of this thing. All right. For South Carolina State, you guys are sitting in the house. I'll be talking to you when we get down to Atlanta. So that's what we got for my final word of this evening. All right. Now, I won't have a show this week, Wednesday, because, content is where the content is. I've given you my preview. But next week, next Sunday night, I will be back with you, and I will have the Celebration Bowl preview. So again, just like how I did the SWAC preview, I'm going to give you the Celebration Bowl preview, and we'll have some guests on next week. We'll have a whole lot of commentary. We'll have some people, we'll definitely want to have everybody here in the comments. We'll get you guys up here. But, that's what's happening next week. So, hey, make sure you tell everybody about this show. Tell everybody about this preview that just went down, okay? Share it. Because, listen, you're going to see people talk about it and put their previews out there, and, you're going to hear it from different views, all right? I just wanted to come and give you a different perspective and just kind of get a little bit deeper into the numbers besides just sitting there here telling you who I think's going to win. So I appreciate every single person that watches me each and every time I hit these airwaves, because I can't do this stuff without y'all, okay? And then Whitley said, no more Monday calls. Nah, no more Monday calls. But And like Mr. Hardy said, like the stream, everybody, like the stream. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Appreciate you, man. Always. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, Daryl Smith. Appreciate you, Mr. Is. Always. Appreciate everybody for all this stuff, man. Appreciate you. Yeah, 63K yesterday. So let's do it. Let's just do this thing big, man. Let's do this thing big this week. So I'm Wild Wayne. Like the stream. Hit the subscribe button if you never subscribed to me. And we'll continue to keep this thing rolling in the next week. God bless everybody. Good night. I love you all.
Thank you for joining us on the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright. As you exit the ride, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the like button, and catch up on all of our prior episodes. Until next time, God bless.